Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to Popternative. This is the talk show and podcast where we have digital discussions to the worlds of TV, film, music, news, pop culture, sports, everything really, depending on the guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guest, the vocalist for a band called From Ashes to New. We're with Matt Brandyberry. Matt, welcome to Popternative, man.
What is up? Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Oh, I'm really happy to chat with you. I mean, right off the bat, I feel like there was this kind of window where it started kind of around 2015-ish, like we're going back a little bit, where genres started to be kind of like thrown out the window. Like From Ashes to New kind of incorporate a lot of different sounds, I find. And I feel like that's kind of the music I want to listen to, is the ones that kind of don't put themselves in a box. You know, there's a lot of things. You guys are a hybrid. Was it safe to say that was kind of like, there was a talk that you guys wanted to do something like that when you started the band, Matt?
So when I started the band, I'd actually been playing guitar in a local band for, I don't know. I was just I was like the captain of the Titanic, man. I was just riding that thing to the bottom of the ocean. You know what I mean? It didn't matter where it went. And I told my now wife, I mean, we've been together forever, girlfriend at the time, I was like, you know what? Like that band ended. I was like, I'm going to do one more thing. And this is going to be, and then I laid it out. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to play guitar. I'm going to rap. And she's like, wait, what? I mean, she had been with me for a few years and she's like, rap? What? You rap? I was like, yeah, I grew up rapping. She's like, I can't see you rapping. But, you know, I put it all, it was planned out to do this style of music. Initially, the first song that I wrote for From Ashes to New was actually for my previous band. And I played guitar for it. And it was supposed to be more of like I guess if we're going to paint a picture for people, it was supposed to be more of a Breaking Benjamin style song. You know what I mean? Like a heavier hard rock / metal song is what it was supposed to be. And it was, my brother-in-law was actually the singer of that band. So it was supposed to be for him to sing. And that never ended up doing anything. We never ended up making anything out of that. So I liked that song enough that I used it for From Ashes to New's first song. It's called Live Again. Mm-hmm. And that was the first song that I decided that I would rap to. And from there, it's, you know, here we are.
Absolutely. You know, the band, I believe, was established around 2013, correct?
Yep.
So
2013, yeah.
So if you think about it, I mean, you have been a band for about 7-8 years, right? But one can make an argument that's not that long either.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, honestly, because people say, you know, I always hear people like, yeah, you know, this new upcoming band. And it's like, I love that, honestly, because, you know, this industry longevity is not always a thing, right? Like you could be a flash in the pan here one day, gone tomorrow, you know, and we've been really, really, really fortunate enough to be able to sustain where we're at and grow incrementally. You know, we haven't necessarily shot straight to the top like some bands do, but at the same time, you know, then there's a lot expected out of you if you do that. So the incremental rise that we're on, we're really happy with it. And we're really happy that people call us a fresh band, you know, 8 years into our career here.
Well, it's really interesting because you guys, from what I know, and I've been listening to you guys since kind of the beginning, you have Panic, I believe, is your third record, correct?
Correct. It's our third full length.
Yes. And it's one of those things where obviously the goal is to kind of get bigger and better and elevate and grow every album. But I feel like Panic just kind of took you guys to a whole new level, in my opinion. Like there's some really, really good tracks on that CD, the album, and I feel old now. I'm calling it CD.
On that disc, on that cassette tape.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, is it safe to say that was kind of like not turning point, but I mean, that was a big record for you guys. Your last record you put out last year was huge for From Ashes to New.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it, by the way. I'm glad you love it, man, you know, and it really was and is, because we've evolved, I think, into a place where we really want to be. I think the first record was very experimental. Yep. Because it was an experiment, you know, and it was my first album that I had ever written. And then the second record was acclimating some new members and trying to get the chemistry together. And Panic is now we have the chemistry. It's a brotherhood, and we're just writing songs in the vein that we know that the direction that we want to go in. Yeah. So it was a very conscious decision to do what we did with Panic. At the same time, I'm one of those people who likes to learn from their shortcomings and pitfalls. And I'm kind of like a football coach in a way. It's like, okay, that play didn't work. What play does work? Okay, that play worked. Let's keep it going. So I'll give you a short example.
Yeah.
And I've never told anybody this before. So you're the first person that gets.
Wow. Okay. Right? That's awesome.
So our song Through It All is our big hit, huge hit, right? That's the one out the gate, the big one, right? There's another song called My Name, which is also a really big song of ours. That song is Through It All rewritten musically. So, the
I can't listen to those songs the same ever again now.
Yeah, you won't. And anybody who watches and hears this probably won't. But again, it's about seeing what you do right and trying to, in a sense, recreate that, but still keeping it genuine. Now, we didn't do any of that with Panic, so it's different. Like, we didn't go off of any of our older songs and go, we should try and recreate. But I saw the success that Through It All had, and I thought a lot of it had to do with what it was musically. And so I emulated that song musically with the song My Name. Now, the subject matter is completely different. The rap's completely different. The chorus is completely different. And a lot of the structure is completely different.
Absolutely.
But the song itself is derived from Through It All.
No, for sure. No, that is so cool. We're talking about your self-titles, but we're also going to talk now about a song that's a single that's not on an album. That's one of my favorite songs by you. And the reason why I like it so much is because I'm a huge fan, obviously, of the collaborations. And I think the fact that you guys got the collab with Anders from In Flames is like one of the coolest things. Like, that's huge. So I'm just curious, because I talk to a lot of artists as well, and like, different collabs have different stories. How did that collab come to be? I really want to know.
Well, I mean, we've known him for quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did some touring with In Flames, and I think it was right after we were up in Canada with Five Finger. We came back with Hell Yeah and In Flames.
Yep.
Funny backstories. We call it, the band was in shambles at that point. We called it the In Hell Tour. But anyway, we came up and we had known these guys. So, and then they ended up on our record label.
Yep.
We had just gotten done with the tour with them and Five Finger again and Breaking Benjamin. So it's with it having the personal relationship and having the label relationship. And
but was there an ask? Like, did someone come up? Like, no, like, I get it. Like, you've toured with them. You like same kind of touring kind of circles and everything. I get that for sure. But like, did you ask him? Was it kind of set up? Like, I was just curious. You know what I mean?
No, man. I mean, 100% transparency. Our label asked.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's
so
why
our label actually asked us if we would have him on the track. And I mean, there was some back and forth. I'll be honest. I mean, it's a business. It's a music industry. I mean, we don't necessarily treat it like a business because this is our life. This is our passion. But at the same time, you got to make sure that everything's right for everybody, right? So kind of like sports, man. I always liken it to sports. So it's like you have to make sure everything's right. But they asked, they said, hey, we would love to put him on one of your tracks. What do you think? And we were like, well, this is the track that we got. And they're like, well, so happens that we want to put that in a movie and we want it to be a single. And we're like, all right, well, let's do it, man. Let's make it happen.
I know. I mean, yeah, the Retaliators, right?
Yep. Retaliators.
That's it. I mean, you guys have done so many cool things too. I mean, we'll get to it because I'm a big wrestling fan. I'm going to ask you about. But before that, the Retaliators. I mean, what was like being asked to kind of be involved with a movie, right? It's one of those things where you want to kind of knock things off the resume from actors to new, right? Like cool tours. Yeah. It's like you guys did the theme song for 205 Live for WWE with CFOs, which is a banger. Hail to the Crowd is like unreal. Nice, listen to it all the time. But it's just like you guys are knocking them all down. Like in terms of stuff.
We've got some cool people that are in our corner that get us some cool opportunities, man. And props to them and props to the band for working their asses off too, So it's like, the movie thing that was cool, man. And they were like, you're going to be in a movie. And we're like, wait, what? That's again, our record label is also Better Noise Films. So it's the same company. Oh, and a lot of different things are under that umbrella. So we were working on the record, and they're like, we want you to be a part of this like horror thriller flick. And the original idea is that we were going to get killed, and it was like, oh, this is wild, you know what I mean? And one thing led to the next. We're a band playing in the movie, so it's kind of every time I think of it, I think of Matt Damon in, was it Eurotrip with like Scotty Doesn't Know?
Oh,
like
yeah.
for some reason that's like the band in the movie.
You know what's funny? Sorry to like get so like that's one of my favorite movies. I have a hard time finding info about that band Lustra. Like the song's called Scotty Doesn't Know by Lustra. I can't find any live performances. Like I don't even know if that band toured. I wonder if that was just kind of like a track.
Yeah, just made up. That's like the Dan Band. You know the Dan Band?
Exactly.
I love the Dan Band. Like Total Eclipse from what is it? Old School. It's like the greatest freaking song ever, man.
They showed up in The Hangover too, the Dan Band, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
So good. But yeah, no. 205 Live, I mean, was like that kind of new cruiserweight show that they're doing, right? And then boom, Hail to the Crown is like the theme song for that. You guys did that with CFOs. I mean, that's a great song. Again, I mean, your label probably was involved, maybe talking to WWE, but that was a cool thing too.
Yeah, WWE actually reached out. It was actually the CFO was actually a big fan of the band, and they were like, we got this idea. This is what we want, and they had like this thing sketched out, and they're like, but we can't do it because we don't sound good. You guys want to do it? And it was like, I mean, again, the welterweight 205 Live, it wasn't a thing yet. It hadn't launched, so we didn't know what we were doing. It was just like, yeah, WWE, cool, man. Sure, throw us on, you know what I mean? Let's do it.
That's amazing. I'm going to ask you a question on Matt that, some bands and some artists find it a difficult question to ask. Some of them find it an easy question to ask. So I'm wondering what it's going to kind of be with you right now. When people listen to From Ashes to New, what are you hoping they get out of it? Besides kind of wanting to listen to it on repeat, what are you hoping people get when they listen to your band?
That's a tough question, I don't know. I guess I'm going to try and put myself in the listener's shoes. Like, I this sound weird, but like a release and you're euphoric. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Not the immature version of it, but you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like when I listen to like bands like Bring Me or Of Mice and Men, like especially like the Flood and the Restoring Force albums, and Breaking Benjamin back in the, I mean, I go down the list, you know what I mean? But when I listen to those bands and I hear those songs that I truly enjoy, they hit different. And they just, you can feel them like it's almost like it's part of your spirit, you know what I mean? And like that's what I want people to get from our music. I want them to listen to our music and feel like they have to have it in their life, like it is now a part of their life. And it's kind of like when you relate a song to a time frame in your life. That's why people become such big fans of certain things, is because they relate certain songs to certain times in their life. And that's what I want for people to take away from this band.
And this follow-up question is more kind of for the listeners. I mean, it's kind of hard for you to kind of answer this, but do you think kind of the mixing of the different kind of genres and the rapping and that the fact that there's kind of a lot going on also is why kind of From Ashes to New maybe hit stride with the listeners as well? Like that's a big thing too that stands out with your music. There's a lot going on in the music. There's a lot of different genres.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem answering that because I'm a fan first. I always tell people I'm a fan first, So it's like I was a big fan of this style of music that we play, and that's why we play it. I don't think that a lot of bands back in 2013 were consciously making the decision to be rap rock bands, because at that point, your big rap rock bands had started to kind of drift away from that. And I love that style of music so much. I'm like, no, like the industry needs more of this. Like what? And now here we are in 2021. It's like almost everybody's rapping in their songs. So it's like, complete 180 from where it was when we started doing it. But it was just my love for that style of music. And you're right, man. Like, I just feel like it blends. If you do it right, it blends together.
Well, some of my favorites are like the rap rock. Like I'm talking like POD, is like one of my favorites. And Linkin Park obviously is like one of my go-tos. I mean, they're not really rap rock, but I feel like you'll understand where I'm coming from. But like Disturbed, some of his vocals almost sound like his rap.
Yeah. That was one of the first. That may even been the first metal concert that I went to. I can't remember if it was the first, but it was Disturbed, Chevelle, Taproot, and this band called Un Loco.
Yeah.
And that was like, that was huge at the time. You know what I mean? Back in the early 2000s.
Korn is another one that's coming to mind. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and back in the early 2000s, man, that was like pop culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that was like the top of the top. And it's funny because I bring that up because people are like, oh, new metal, like one of the worst things that ever happened to music. And
no
it's like,
way.
You realize that the height of new metal was bigger than anything else that was out there. And Linkin Park is still one of, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, but they may be the biggest metal act besides
Slipknot has not put a record out that I did love. So, know, that's very hard for a band to do. Obviously, you like some records more than others.
Yeah.
Like that band has not put out a record, and that's like new metal. One can make an argument, right? Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, man. And Korn's the same way. And, and just dialing and circling back to the Linkin Park thing, I mean, Hybrid Theory's double freaking diamond, man. Yep. I mean, there's not many artists. I mean, they probably count on maybe one, maybe two hands amount of artists that can say that they've got that many album sales from a record.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but it's pretty. Do you find it crazy too now? Because, like, for example, if I pull up From Ashes to News Spotify, I mean, right now it fluctuates right on a monthly basis, but right now there's over 1 million people on a monthly basis that listen to your band. Like, it's wild that you could actually like look and like track it rather than like in like 2000, in the early 2090s where it's just playing on the radio and you don't really know how many people are actually listening to it. Like, have you ever thought about that? Like, that's a lot of people on a monthly basis, man.
Yeah, man. I think of it on a couple different aspects, though. I think of it one way as it is a lot of people, like 1.2 million. Like, I would have never thought before I started this band that many people would be listening to something that I was part of creating. Yes. First off. Second off, if we were a band in the late 90s, early 2000s, I feel like we would be massive. And the reason is because we've got great radio. Our label does great radio. And that was really one of the big ways that you found bands back then is you listened to the radio. Now it's everywhere. People aren't listening to the radio all the time. They can find their music through Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music, whatever down the list. So it's like, social media and virality is a big way that people find music. And if you don't have that, then you have a harder time reaching people. Not saying that we don't reach people through radio, because we definitely do, but early 2000s was definitely the climax, I think, of, radio, especially for rock music.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. But like, I feel like, there's so many bands that are coming out right now that you wonder like the timetables. Like, they say like if that band came out like 6 years earlier, maybe it would have been like the biggest thing ever. Yeah.
Right. Like would they have been way bigger, or would they have not been anything at all because it would have been so niche that maybe it wouldn't have fit?
But it's wild, like the whole scene, the Warped Tour stuff, you know what I mean? And like it's one of those things where Vans Warped Tour started as like punk rock, then it became like screamo and the emo scene and everything, right? And like that, like bands like From Ashes to New, like I wouldn't have been surprised if they showed up on Warped Tour because they were getting every genre in the book at one point.
We were on Warped Tour.
You were on Warped Tour, it's true.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. But here's the thing: I remember, man, like being like going to shows and like when Asking Alexandria put out like their first record. That was like the biggest deal, man. Like that music was like huge.
It was fresh, man.
My band, my like local band in Montreal, we got to open up for them for 2,000 people.
Yeah,
and that was pretty cool.
They shot up quick, man, and they're still awesome to this day, and they're great people too. So I mean, they deserve every bit of success that they have.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, you guys deserve all the success you guys are having. I mean, you guys have accomplished a lot of stuff, man. It's awesome to see.
Yeah, man. It's the fans, though. I mean, we've got a great team, and we feel like we make great music. So I mean, there's that. But I mean, it's the fans, man. Without them, what are we? My dog's in the background right now. I think my wife's home, and he's like up there just yelping. He's like, "Let me out."
But before we wrap up quickly too, it's funny when we were talking about kind of like the Inflamed stuff. You're saying like it's a business, right? I feel like that's kind of something that always people don't realize or forget. Where, yes, I get like you love certain sounds that your bands do and everything, and you want every record to sound the same. I get that. But one, you know this, I know this from playing in bands. Like things change naturally. Bands grow naturally. Like it happens, right? Like one record to the other, there's always going to be changes sometimes. You know what I mean? People grow, but I find too, like Fall Out Boy is a perfect example. They're one of my favorite bands. They always get grilled like, oh, like Fall Out Boy sold out. They signed to a major label. Is that not kind of the point of what you guys are trying to do in a sense too? Like you are trying to make a living, put food on the table, and be a touring band. Like that is what you're supposed to, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I get it in a sense from a fan perspective. Is you liked the band for what they were, and then once they get into a certain, a lot of people think that a band will change because a record label wants them to change.
Yep.
And sometimes that is the case. I mean, that's not always not the case. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes the label will go based off of what made the band successful before they went and did something like that. So I will give the fan base, and again, I'm a fan first. I'll give the fan base some credit when they say that, I really lost touch with this band because of the direction that they went in.
Yeah.
And they sold out or they did whatever. And I will say on the flip side of the coin and ask people to put themselves in the position of them going to work and them working. Let's just say you work at a factory job. I used to work at a factory job. I'm one of those musicians who worked their ass off in the blue collar industry for, over a decade before my band got signed. So it's not like I was fed with a silver spoon. So I get what it's like to work, hard. So let's just put it in perspective and use this as an example. You work really, really hard at a factory and you start at entry level and you see how the supervisors, shift supervisors or plant managers, and you see the cushy lifestyle that they have. And every day you go in and you put your work boots on and you bust your knuckles and you go in there and you get it done. And you just, the whole, a lot of the time you're going, I wish I could get a raise or I could get a promotion or I could get whatever, I could get a bonus. Who doesn't want that? I mean, as a musician, just because we're musicians doesn't mean that we don't have to eat, and you know what I mean? And it's like, and a lot of people will say, and I'll give you this, a lot of people say, well, you make so much more money. I don't think that people understand what the music industry is now compared to what it used to be.
Nope.
It's definitely not as lucrative, especially not on this side as it used to be. Do we do okay? Sure. Yeah, we do okay. But everybody, I feel at least we'll say 90% of people that exist want to do better.
Yeah.
And they try and think of different ways to do better, and then I think that's what.
But I feel too, like, obviously, like what's a big part of what you do from a business perspective, something that you can't do right now too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know 100%. What I mean? So that's also the thing too. There's almost like a reliability there as well, which is kind of tough. Like if you can't tour, you know what I mean?
Man. The whole thing's a gamble, really. Yeah. And when I started doing this, I was a union member for an electrical union. Mm-hmm. And I actually worked in the cable industry, but I was a union member for the electrical union. Mm-hmm. And I had a great career, made great money. And you know what I mean? But would have been comfortable clear up until I retired in my mid 60s, if that's where we were at with retirement at that point. Mm-hmm. So I did well, but I took a leap of faith into an industry where nothing is promised. It is all, like I said, you could be here one day, gone tomorrow. And so is everything else with it. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people will look at sports and they'll say, and I use this as an example, talking to Danny in football. I always use football because I love it. But I said to Danny, dude, think about, when you look at a professional sports or football player and you say, wow, they make this many $1 million a year, or their contract for 5 years is worth this many million. Granted, it's a lot of money regardless of the way you look at it. Okay. But again, it's a here today, gone tomorrow. I mean, that guy could take a shot to the knee, ruin his career for the rest of his life. What's he going to do if he came out of school early? If he came out as a sophomore or junior into the NFL?
And you'll be surprised how many people, unfortunately, I'm in Canada, right? Hockey. I grew up with a lot of hockey players. You'll be surprised there aren't a lot of backup plans. It's like that's what they want to do.
Right. And what's your retirement, really? You know what I mean? Your retirement is the money that you saved. And if you're big enough, you get a deal with some sort of maybe a company that's going to give you an endorsement or something like that. But I mean, it's the same thing with music. If you're not one of those bands that's able to have longevity and create record after record that your fans love and can't live without, what's your, when you get into your mid 40s or mid 50s, what's your plan? If you didn't save money and you didn't make a lot of it, there's no retirement. There's nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like you're constantly working to get to that upper echelon. So when you get there, you can provide something that's more comfortable for your future.
Yeah.
Or your family's future. I'm a family man. So,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I have to plan for my family, man. Like this is at this point, it has nothing to do with me anymore. This has everything to do with my family.
This interview got so real and deep, like perfect kind of like boom, like a perfect kind of.
Look, hey man, I'm an open book. My fans know that. Fans know that about me. I'm an open book. I'm 100% transparent.
No, that's great, man. No, it makes for good conversation. And Matt, thank you so much for coming on Popternative, man. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
Absolutely. So, I mean, Panic is kind of the latest full length from the band. People can listen to it wherever they basically listen to music. It's crazy that you can say that now too, right? Like, where can they listen from Ashes to New? Like anywhere you listen to music, basically.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's sweet, dude. I mean, it's surreal, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we started, it was like, I'm gonna do this because it was literally I just gave up trying. I tried so hard for so long, and I think that was the magic of it. Like I stopped trying to do stuff and just did stuff.
I know, it's crazy. And where can people follow the band on social media and you to keep up to date with everything?
You just type From Ashes to New into wherever you're at, you'll find us.
Absolutely. Well, seriously, thank you so much for doing this, and congrats on all the success the band has had so far. And man, keep it going, man. As much as you guys could, keep it going. I'm rooting for you guys.
Hey, man, without dialing back early in the conversation, we're just getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Matt Brandyberry from Ashes to New and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.